Edexcel, June 2021. This is the microeconomics paper, so paper 1. Let's get right on with it and let's get started with this section A. So going straight to the question, which of the following best describes these two statements above? So the question is essentially asking us whether these statements are positive or normative. Now, of course, this is a very early on year 12 concept, quite an easy concept as well, so let's run through it. So statement 1, since Poland joined the EU in 2004, over 1 million of its workforce has migrated to other countries in the EU. Now, of course, straight away I can identify this is a positive statement. Why is that? Positive statements can be tested and they usually include evidence. So the main pitfall on positive versus normative statements is that it does not matter if the statement is factually incorrect. As long as the statement can be tested, it's not an opinion, it is a positive statement. Let's have a look at statement 2. Many engineers have left Poland for higher paid jobs in other countries in the EU. Again, can we test this? Yes. Can we measure this? Can we measure how many engineers have left? Yes. Therefore, it is a positive statement. It does not include any sort of opinion. Thus, the answer for this question would be D, as they are both positive statements. And that is 1 mark there. Let's keep going to the next question. So we have a 4-mark question here. Explain question. Explain the likely impact of migration on the wage level of engineers in Poland. So we talk about in Poland specifically. So what has the stimulus told us about engineers in Poland? It's told us workers in Poland and many engineers have left. Therefore, many engineers have left. Let's simply just think about, and the easiest way to demonstrate this is a labour supply and demand diagram. So we have supply of labour and we have demand of labour. And if engineers are leaving Poland, what is going to happen to the supply of labour? Supply of labour is going to decrease. We have a decrease in supply of labour. Of course, that causes a shift inwards of supply from S to S plus 1. And like I said, this is a labour market diagram. So what's going to be on the axis? It's going to be wage on the y-axis and then quantity of labour on the x-axis. So by engineers leaving Poland, let's see the effects we have. So we have, of course, a decrease in the quantity of engineers from QE to Q1, and then also let's see what happens on the y-axis. Wage rate, it will go from WE to W1, which is an increase in wage. And why is that? Since now there's a shortage of engineers, therefore the engineers that have stayed have increased bargaining power. Therefore, with increased bargaining power, they can negotiate higher wages. As firms almost have no other option than to pay these higher wages to these engineers, since most of the engineers have left. But yeah, always remember, in a 4-mark question, at least 1 mark, at least one, so it could be 2, but at least 1 mark is reserved for application. So how am I going to get the application? Of course, in the start of this question, we were given 2 statements, so this is a great bit of application we can use to pick up the application mark. And of course, with this question, to achieve the 4 marks, you would not have to draw this diagram out, but it's first thing that came to our mind. It explains the concept perfectly, so I think it's a great addition just to help you secure the marks. But like I said, migration leads to engineers leaving Poland. Give that a bit of application. Over 1 million workers have migrated. This leads to a reduction in supply. Then I've quoted the diagram from S to S plus 1, which means there is a shortage of engineers, and I've said where the shortage is. This increases those workers' bargaining powers, thus firms have to offer higher wages to these workers. And that is more than enough for 4 out of 4 marks, and that is how to get 5 out of 5 on that question 1. And let's keep going. So we have a bit of a diagram here, and let's just move to the question. So with reference to the information provided, draw a supply and demand diagram to show why the price of cobalt fell between June 2018 and June 2019. So why it fell between June 2018 and 2019. So great question, and 4 marks here. We love to see it. So now, what am I looking for in this extract when I go and look for it? So of course, it's told us it's a supply and demand diagram. So I'm either looking for a supply reason that the price fell, so a shift out in supply, or a demand reason the price fell. So let's have a read through this extract. Cobalt is a key metal used in the batteries of electric cars. China is one of the largest producers of electric cars, so they use this cobalt, but has recently cut subsidies to its manufacturers. So that is probably one reason I'm going to identify. So this cut subsidies to its manufacturers, it means manufacturers will be producing less cobalt, or producing less of these electric cars, thus using less cobalt. So what does that mean? That means less demand for cobalt. So that's going to be one of the reasons why it shifts in. But let's keep reading. There might be another reason. So Congo produces more than 60% of the world's supply of cobalt from its small-scale mines. Many small mines have opened up, so now that's another reason. There's an increase in supply, since of course more mines means more cobalt. So of course we have, if you just quickly sketch it, we have less demand, so demand shifting in, and we have more supply, supply shifting out. thus of course will lead to a lower price. But now let's draw that a bit more accurately. So of course on your axis just is a classic supply and demand diagram. We have price on the y-axis, quantity on the x-axis. We have our original supply curve, we have our original demand curve, and if you are drawing out in the exam, of course, for the first time at least, write out supply, demand, and like I said, there is a shift outwards in supply due to new coal mines being open, so let's shift out the supply, and then there was a decrease in demand, but let's deal with supply first. So supply shifts to S+1, and then there was a decrease in demand due to China cutting a subsidy, so let's shift demand inwards now from D to D+1. Now, we've got most of the marks here, but now let's label up these new equilibriums. So what two equilibriums am I labeling up? Firstly, the original equilibrium, then we have our new equilibrium. So original equilibrium, of course, is where supply equals demand. So PE, and then just go down from there, which is QE. And now what is our new equilibrium? Is where D+1 is, so D+1 is equal to S+1. So that would be at this point here. So let's just go down from there, that will be Q1. And then we have our new price as well, which is P1. So what do we see overall? We see a reduction in price from PE to P1 and an increase in quantity demanded. And that is what would happen when we have a shift out of supply and decrease in demand, and to show what happens to the price of cobalt. But let's keep going with this question. So between June 2018 and 2019, the price of cobalt fell by, and it's one mark here. So we're talking about 2018 and 2019 June. So let's have a look at this graph we were shown earlier. So originally in June 2018, the price per pound of weight is at 40, and then in 2019 it is at 15. So working out the difference in 40 and 50. So that is of course a very simple percentage change. It's 40 take away 15 divided by 40. Why are we dividing it by 40? Of course, because 40 is the original price in 2018. Then we times that by 100, which gives us 62.5%, which is C. Therefore, that is how to get 5 out of 5 marks on question 2. And let's keep going. So it looks like we've got a bit of price discrimination here out of first impressions, but complete the third degree price discrimination diagram below. Draw the impact on each sub-market by showing the price and profit. Okay, so let's see what the stimulus is saying. River Island is a clothing retailer. Students are offered a River Island student discount to benefit from a 10% price reduction as an attempt by the firm to increase profit. Now, this genuinely might be the easiest 4 marks I've ever seen on a question. All you are literally doing, they've given you the curves. All you need to do is label up the profit maximization points. And of course, this relies on you knowing where do firms profit maximize. That would be where MC equals MR. Extremely simple content knowledge. So let's go about doing this. So let's start with students. So where's MC equals MR? Remember, this is MC here, and this is MR here, and it's just a straight diagonal line. So we just circle that, and then we go up from there. Now we go up until, just like it's exact same theory as the normal monopoly diagram. So go up until we hit our AR curve, then we go left from there. And what will this give us? This is the profit maximization price. And then we go down from there, which would of course give us the quantity at where we profit maximize. And then this would of course, the MCAC would tell us the box of supernormal profit, which therefore we would label up there as this point here would tell us the costs. We don't need to label the costs, but therefore that is the box of supernormal profit. I'm just going to label that up. Box of supernormal profit they make from students. So bang, and that's 2 marks done there. Let's go to the opposite side of the spectrum with non-students. Same thing. Where do we profit maximize? Where MC equals MR. So that is that point there. We'll go down firstly this time. So that would give us Q max. I'll just label that 1, Q max 1. Then keep going up from Q max 1, which will tell, then until we hit our AR curve, we go left there, which gives us P max 1. And now this again, we have our box of supernormal profit, which is, this is where our costs are. So this is now our box of supernormal profit. So now we'll just label this box of supernormal profit for non-students. And even whilst I was recording, look how quick and easy that was. And that is a blessing of a 4-mark question. But yeah, let's keep going and let's see what the next question is. Which of the following, it's a multiple choice question, which of the following is necessary for a firm to be able to practice price discrimination? So this is essentially the question asking you, what are some of the conditions needed for a firm to price discriminate? So this question is very simple content knowledge. We want a very simple free flashcard on the UDO Econ website, but it's asking us the conditions of price discrimination. And of course, A actually labelled one of them. So one of the main conditions of price discrimination is that a firm has to have some degree of market power, but let's see some of the rest of them. They need to be able to store their product. That is not one of the necessary characteristics. the product has different features, that is not another characteristic, and the costs of supplying for some customers are higher, that is again not a characteristic. So the answer therefore would be A, and that's like to get 5 out of 5 marks on question 3. And let's keep going. So straight to the question, calculate the total revenue from ticket sales from It's a Wonderful Life, assuming it is only shown 5 times at full capacity. You are advised to show your working 2-mark question. So it looks like a lot of work here for just 2 marks. Let's have a read of the stimulus. So the total cost of this production was £200,000, but remember, how do we get total revenue? The formula for total revenue is price times quantity, so we do not need to account for cost in this equation so far. So it's given us there the ticket price, so we have got the price now. Now we just need the quantity. So the theatre has a capacity of 200 seats, so this has told us, assuming it's shown 5 times at full capacity, so 300 times 5 would give us 1,500, some good quick maths, some mental maths there, and then so that is how many tickets have been sold in total. So now I'm going to times that by 40, which should give me the total revenue, so 1,500 times 40, which is 60,000, and of course 2 marks here, you need to give the units. I think it was in dollars, so I'm going to slap a dollar sign, a bit of a dodgy dollar sign, but yeah, so the total revenue, and to get 2 marks for this question, $60,000. And let's keep going. If I had to predict, I'm assuming it's going to get us to use the cost side of things. Another equation, I'm guessing. I haven't actually looked at it. Calculate the value of the... a bit different. So calculate the value of the government subsidy necessary for this production to cover all its costs. Okay, so we didn't finish reading the stimulus, so I'm guessing it's going to mention it there. So the company aims for revenue maximization. If that is achieved, revenue from ticket sales will cover 30% of the costs. Charitable donations contribute 12.5% to total costs. That's a good thing to know. And then a government subsidy ensures that production covers all of its costs. So the subsidy covers the rest of it. So firstly, let's work out the charitable donations. So they cover 12.5% of total costs. So of course, total costs, as it mentions here, is £200,000. So it's basically 12.5% of £200,000. How would you do that? You do 200,000 divided by 100 times 12.5, which will give us £25,000. I'm sure a lot of you could have done that in your minds. So we have £25,000 or dollars from the charitable donations. Then of course let's add in the $60,000 of revenue that we already have. So that gives us £85,000. So let's add that in. So now essentially the government would have to cover the rest. So we did $200,000, take away $85,000, which would give us $115,000, and that would be the size of the government subsidy equals the government subsidy. And that is how to get 2 marks here. Again, very easy 2 marks. You don't even really need to be doing economics for these marks, so 100% marks that you need to make sure you're picking up. That's really easy 4 marks. And let's keep going. Which of the following conditions is necessary for revenue maximization to occur? And now let's think about monopoly diagram. Where do firms revenue maximize? Where MR equals 0, and I bet that will be the answer in one of these, and it looks like it is. So average revenue equals average cost, no. Average revenue equals marginal cost, no. And pretty much it's D, I can see it straight away. Marginal revenue equals 0. And like I said, if you know your conditions, if you know how to manipulate your monopoly diagram, this will be a very easy and again a very quick question. 5 marks here. You could probably, if you're really pushing yourself, get these done in around a minute, and especially with practice, definitely in around a minute. So yeah, that's how to get 5 out of 5 marks on this 4-mark question. And let's keep going. Again, another diagram. We do love a diagram, and it looks like it's a perfectly competitive market here. So draw the diagrams for the equilibrium positions for both lemon market and a typical firm in the long run. So it's a long run, perfectly competitive market. And a few of you may be asking, how do I know it's perfectly competitive markets? Since that is the only diagram we basically get 2 side by side. We get market and we get a firm diagram. It's just classic representation of a perfectly competitive market. Kiara, I'm not really sure how to pronounce that name, decides to sell lemons at a local market, expecting to make normal profits. She notices that all the lemon sellers are charging the exact same price. So of course, classic features of a perfectly competitive market. And the main thing it says that draw it in the long run. And what is the main feature and the main bit of content knowledge you need to know for that? In the long run, perfectly competitive markets cannot make soon no profit, and as it says here, they will only make normal profit. So again, very easy 4 marks here. So let's get drawing. And then we have demand, and this is for market. And then what do we do from here? We get our equilibrium price of PE, and then we got equilibrium quantity QE, and then we just keep going right from our equilibrium price, which is PE. Then when we hit our firm diagram, we draw a perfectly horizontal line, and this equals D equals AR equals MR. And for those of you who have revised perfectly competitive markets, very easy, very simple stuff. Now, how do we get to show this firm is making normal profits? All we need is our AC curve needs to hit our D equals AR equals MR curve like this. So I'll try to draw it perfectly here. So yeah, something like that. So AC, and then of course, what is the last curve we're missing? MC. And why does our AC curve need to hit our MR curve perfectly? Since, of course, these firms still do profit maximize, where MC equals MR, and then this will mean, so this is a quantity where the profit maximize, and this is the price of where the profit maximize. Thus, at this price, since AC is equal to D equals AR equals MR, it means these firms are making no profit. And what is no profit? That is the same as normal profit. So the firms are not making super no profit. Essentially, if they're breaking even, we say that is normal profit. Let's finish off this question with the multiple choice and finish the section A off. Which of the following will exist in the short run if Kiara makes a loss? And it's to do with allocative and productive efficiency. A great bit of revision here. First things first, let's start with allocative efficiency. So whether it be the short run or the long run, perfectly competitive markets are always allocatively efficient. And why is that? Let's look at the curves. Whereas allocative efficiency is where MC equals AR, and when a firm profit maximizes, of course, it's where MC equals MR. So therefore, they are always going to be allocatively efficient, as where MC equals MR is the same as where MC equals AR. So now that helps us eliminate those bottom two, and now it's essentially asking us whether she's productively efficient or productively inefficient. So let's see, if Kiara was making a loss, would she be productively inefficient or efficient? So how could we show this firm making a loss? Of course, the average cost would have to be above. So we'll draw something like this. So AC1. Now let's see, is this firm productively efficient? Where is productive efficiency? Where MC equals AC. That would be this point. Therefore, they would have to produce at this quantity and at this price. Therefore, this would mean in the short run, if Kiara was making a loss, she would be allocatively efficient, but she would be productively inefficient. Thus, the answer would be B. And that is how to get 5 out of 5 marks on question 5. And more importantly, how to get 25 out of 25 on section A. Let's keep going and let's move on to section B for this 2021 paper 1.